been a hell of a project. It's super fun. Everybody involved has been very gung-ho, and we really, did something incredible in 6 months, to be honest with you. So, I don't know. Great teams, love working with them.
Hi, Ian DeFazio. Yeah, there's a pretty big disconnect between the digital world and the physical world, and so my role is to try and reduce the gap between the two. And so taking the model from the digital model that was originally created in Revit, and then in order to get the slices, and so actually the first model was in Revit, and it actually came from LCA Architects. It was a concept that was put together that wasn't completely right, and that was actually the first one that we made to kind of wrap it. There were a few changes, but just to kind of get a baseline on where we were. And from that initial meeting, a lot of changes happened, and so we needed to change the topography in general, and a lot of different moving of buildings, and it was pretty crazy. And so a lot of that happened in SketchUp, and then getting those new slices and then putting that together for the next meeting. So the first three were just foam. They didn't have any, they were just like conceptual models that we put together to show the owner to understand the flow of the museum and how the buildings and the walls and everything were gonna work together. And so that was basically just like topo lines, topography lines that were cut in slices, and then we glued them together, and then put the buildings in and presented them to the owner in order to get him a feel for how big everything was going to be. So the very first one, we actually had to do that first one, and then we had another meeting in 2 weeks, and we had to put that one together super fast. And it took, I don't know, like 3 days, and I spent like 3 days basically not leaving work to go and cut all of the slices. There were hundreds of slices, and then glue them all together, and then construct all of the buildings, and then have it ready for the meetings. It was a lot. It was a lot. And it was fun. I'd say the first one was fun. The second one was like, okay, let's just get this done. And then the third one was like, I never want to do this again.
So I am Austin, basically CNC operator for BayStone. So when we started the 20th scale model, Ian gave me a SketchUp file that was everything scaled down, and I had to slice it up, make layers that were, I think it was 1 1/8 inches thick, and then sent those files over to Umberto. He cut them out for us, and spent the next week and a half or so gluing them all together. The animals have for sure been the biggest undertaking. We started with a list of 250 of them. We are now well over 560 animals. And I'd love to say they're all in unique poses, but they're not. We have a lot of the same animal modeled a different way or with different horns, and we're calling it something else. And it's been a real struggle to get all the right size of the right creature with the right horns, the right hooves. It's pretty complex. It's one of those things no one's ever gonna see it, but it's real, we did it. So we do have a workflow down there. Since Willie moved over here, I've been modeling all the animals and then slicing and printing them. And then they go to Miguel and Dave's team, but they assemble them, make them smooth, because 3D printing is prone to have random textures show up. They make them smooth, and then Miguel paints them to look lifelike. Does a damn fine job of it too. So it takes a couple of days to go from file to finished. Depending on the size of the animal, it could take a week. Like we've been working on an Apatosaurus now for about a week, and thing's huge. But it took 2 days to print, and then Miguel's been working his magic with the modeling paste and making it look real, and it takes quite a few man-hours to get a single one done. So the Brownstones is the New York exhibit. It's the first thing you walk through. Like you walk through the stones, and there's one on your left and one on your right. And those were the first things that we 3D printed, actually. They were a challenge because they're thin, and all the models I could find were many triangles, very matrix dense. So it was hard to slice them and get the printer to see what I was wanting it to see. We have to do the exterior murals, working on those right here. And then we have to figure out a way to support the thing so we can move it. And then we have to ship it to Concord. So yeah, that's the next thing, is figuring out how to get everything there safely.
So introduce yourself. Who are you?
I'm Tim Ritter. I'm the general manager of BayStone. So it's at a 20th scale model. So if you multiply any given dimension, for instance, 50 feet is the height of the building, times 0.05, which is 1/20th, you come up with the height of the exterior wall of this model being 30 inches. So the model is 12.5 feet by 13.5 feet by 30 inches tall. And it is to convey to the ownership and to our entire team who has to build this building what exactly we are building. We learned everything we needed to know. The model evolved, changed, reworked, moved tree locations around. There's 46 trees that are modeled to scale. There's over 700 animals, excluding the prehistoric displays, all of which have been 3D printed at 20th scale. So we now have a sense of proportion and how things fit. Giraffes, in other words, are eating from an appropriate sized acacia tree. The Wildebeest Migration clambers down a cliff through a water hole with crocodiles in it. So all of that evolved as a function of seeing what we were missing when we first put it together. Blue Rhino is a dynamic museum diorama team of prehistory. They make dinosaurs and Pleistocene exhibits, mammoths, meliodons, and then Albert, the owner, visited about once a week once we hit our stride. And we made small little tweaks to it, deleted an oil pump jack as an exhibit, and changed that exhibit area over to muskox and wolves. Changed the prehistory exhibit around, and are bringing in multiple dinosaurs as well as a mammoth, a couple of smeliodons, a short-faced bear, and a meteor. We have a great team of people. They're very, very good at what they do. And I got them all together multiple times and said, I'm going to walk in over and over and over again and make you change something. It's not because you're not doing good work. It's because I expect perfection. And what we have achieved is now a model that will stand as the standard for the construction of a 90,000 square foot project. My favorite part of the model and what will be the museum and the design is that it's intentionally a constant surprise. You never get to know what to expect next. Around every corner is a surprise and a new view of something you will not expect to see. It's a daunting task, but yes, it is a project of a lifetime.